This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everyone, to this week's episode of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, as always, my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Talking Tigers, talking a lot of good things going on with the Detroit Tigers, still right around one of the best records in all of Major League Baseball. Getting some great nods, which is great, some honors. Couple of Detroit Tigers, 3, in fact, voted in to the All-Star game. Do they get more? But you look at it and you say Tariq Skubal had some interesting things to say in regards to maybe the Tigers deserve more. Maybe not. Me and Adam are going to look at these Detroit Tigers and looking at, really, in the end, can guys like Javi Baez, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, can they keep up this crazy offensive torrid pace? It's wild, man. It's really wild to think about, and we got to look at continuously what the heck is going on with the Red Wings. Is it because of Steve Yzerman? Why are free agents or guys that are available not even taking the calls from the Red Wings? Is it the product on the ice? Is it just the fact simply that agents realize that Yzerman's a stickler to deal with and they don't want to negotiate one-year deals? It's crazy to think about that a name came out and just basically a report allegedly said that a player that the Red Wings could have been targeting didn't even want to take a call. That's crazy to think about what that really could mean for a portion of the development of the Detroit Red Wings. But let's look at the Tigers. They're getting closer to the All-Star break. They're playing incredible baseball. They're playing very well. They handled the Guardians. They swept them, getting revenge from an earlier series this year. You played really well. I mean, in the end, offensively, it was a grinded-out series, but in the end, you had a great closing finale against the Guardians where it was a great Skubal day on Sunday, but the scoring came in the 9th and 10th inning. And it just really looks like a baseball team that when you really look at it, starting to kind of gaining more traction as the favorite coming out of the AL. And it's nice to see.
I think my big concern with this right now, because I wouldn't say that I'm 100% confident that this team is going to win the American League. I'm not 100% confident this team is going to get to the World Series. So while, yes, they are the favorite, I still have some concerns. Let me ask you this. Do you feel like this team is a juggernaut right now as it consists? The answer is probably no. Do you feel like this team is unbeatable, unflappable? Your answer is probably no. I feel like this team still has some weak spots that have to be addressed, and it's kind of all over the place. Like, I know there's no such thing as a perfect baseball team. You look at the Dodgers and you look at all the money that they've spent. I don't feel like that's a perfect baseball team, especially when you compare what their budget is compared to what the Tigers' budget is, and the Tigers currently have a better record than the Dodgers. So I get it. There is no such thing as a perfect baseball team. But I think you can argue the case that this team needs to add to the offense, this team needs to add to the starting pitching, and this team needs to add to the bullpen. And those are 3 massive holes that I feel like are on this team and could directly at any point along the way to trying to win a World Series, much less conquer the American League to get to the World Series. What's your confidence level at? Because, again, I think this team is rocking on all cylinders as we approach the All-Star break, as we're working our way towards this little break that we get here in the middle of July where the teams can kind of reset. I don't know if this team's going to be able to continue this torrid pace as we come out of the All-Star break, and that has me a little bit concerned. Now, look, they've got a monster lead. I get it, but you still want this team playing good baseball as we head down the stretch. You want this team getting hot towards the back end of the regular season as they get into the playoffs, so they're not sputtering when they're in the playoffs and they're in that playoff run as they're trying to make that World Series. What's your confidence level with the team being able to do that coming out of the All-Star break?
I see where your head's at. You're kind of reminded of what happened with the Astros. They were playing well, but they
Yes.
ran against a juggernaut Tigers team. And it has the feel right now that the Tigers are a really great regular season team, but we all know that the pitching ramps up in the postseason. The best of the best rise to the top. And the torrid pace of home runs, the ability to move from first to second, second to third, the base running kind of is a lot more tight. The premium on runs is definitely different in the postseason. And so you want as many guys playing well as possible. But because I do think they can if they get hot. I do get the sense that you're a little bit nervous. They're peaking a little bit early, maybe at the tail end here of June and now the middle portion of July. Maybe they're playing their best baseball, and can they ramp it up again when you face maybe a team like Tampa or the Yankees or whoever is going to be coming out of the AL in the postseason? I get your concern. But I do think that there's moves to be made. I think the team will get a lot healthier. You hope that Reese Olson and Casey Mize can be guys that start to ramp it up. But you start with the very basic. It just doesn't seem like Tariq Skubal is slowing down at all. It's like he's ramping up. It's like he's ready to go, and he can go 6 innings, 7 innings strong, 1 run, 2 runs. Now, behind him, that's going to be a concern. Is it going to be Flaherty, Reese Olson, Casey Mize? That's going to be a concern. But I do think where your head's at is that you just want to fortify around the margins, as some general managers will say, making sure that any holes that could ramp up, the holes that you see, the Zach McKinstries, the Sweeneys of the world, the Kerry Carpenters, the Riley Greens, who run hot and cold. The worst thing possible, and I know your fears, the worst thing possible is it's a Tigers team that's hungry and ready to go, and then Riley Green has another 0 for 16 stint in the postseason. Spencer Torkelson goes cold. You want to have as many bats as possible to give you those options. And I do think that potentially they will go out there and make those moves. I just feel like the Tigers know what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. The AJ Hinch knows what buttons to push to get this team to play well at the right time. I mean, because they lose a series, they win 3 more in a row. So it's a team that has not been succumbing to any adversity. They deal with stuff, and then they all of a sudden they just go on another winning streak.
I think that's what's astounding about this team.
Crazy.
Right? So you will lose a series, and then you bounce back and you win 3 or 4 more. It's almost like losing that series is almost a hard reset for this team, and they get stronger after it. It is pretty crazy to watch that happen and to see how this team just continues to win series. When this team gets ready to enter into a new series, I'm pretty confident they're taking 2 every time.
Yeah.
And to come on here and to say, look, I don't know if they're constructed well enough to win the World Series. It's almost like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like this team, I'm supremely confident that this team is going to get the job done series to series, week to week. I feel like at the end of every week, this team's going to have won at least 4 games. And if they're doing that, they're essentially playing 600 baseball. You're going to have a team that's going to have won a ton of games at the end of the year, 100 plus. To say that they're not going to be the favorites to win the World Series seems almost backhanded, and you seem to be a little bit out of your depth. But again, when I look at this team and I try to compare it to other teams, a lot of what you said rings true to me, right? I do feel like they're peaking a little bit early. I do feel like this team has been riding an incredibly hot hand. Now, they've been riding it all season, which is unbelievable, right? Like it's not you're not hot at what is this now? 3-4 months into the year, like you're not just hot, like you're a good baseball team, and that's what this is. But it does feel like at some point the wheels are going to kind of fall off, and like that's my big concern. It's my big apprehension. And then you've pointed to the starting pitching rotation. It really is Tariq Skubal and guys. Like I want to spend a little bit of time talking about Jack Flaherty here in a minute, but I've been supremely impressed by what Casey Mize has been able to do. He's gone out there and he's been able to control games. He's looked incredibly comfortable on the mound. Again, big concern with Casey Mize is health. He's had a couple of scares already this season. It is something that I think if you are a fan of the Tigers, if you're a fan of the way this pitching staff is put together, Casey Mize, I feel like could be your number 2 on a World Series roster. but there's apprehension there because his hamstring might go. He might get a blister on his thumb. He might pull an oblique ligament. Like it could be a shoulder, could be an elbow. With Casey Mize, I feel like just because of his history, he is sometimes a walking infirmary. And I don't know if I can pencil that guy in as your number 2. And after that, it's almost like it's a coin flip who you're going to get as far as a pitcher goes. It feels a little Jekyll and Hyde with this starting rotation. So could you see Casey Mize being the guy who toes the slab after Tarek Skubal? Again, Skubal, I feel like we pencil it in, it's a W. You know what I'm saying? Skubal's going to go out there and he's going to give you his best stuff. He's going to give you at least 7 innings, sometimes more. This coaching staff is apprehensive, obviously, about letting him exceed the 100 pitch mark. And maybe that's something just to kind of preserve his arm for playoff baseball. As of right now, I think maybe he's eclipsed 100 pitches 2, maybe 3 times this year. I'd have to go back and look, but it hasn't been a lot. Normally, once he gets to about the 80-90 mark, they're giving him the ziggy. So I think Casey Mize, with what he's shown, can be that guy who could fill in after Skubal, but I'm not 100% sold that is as solid of a starting pitching rotation as you're going to need or you're going to want headed down the stretch and as you're approaching World Series like baseball. How confident are you in Casey Mize being your possible number 2 starter on a World Series roster for the Detroit Tigers?
Yeah, many people think he was one of the snubs that maybe deserved a spot. Maybe Zach McKinstry, maybe Will Vest.
You could make the argument for it.
Right, but Casey Mize, look, man, I like people will say a couple of years after Tommy John is when you really start to get your stuff back, your command, and it forces you to be an overall great pitcher. So you just got to love what he's doing. He's got a presence. He's consistent. Now, I don't think he's number 2 quality. I do think that the stuff that Flaherty possesses, you hope that it ramps up in terms of high-end fastball. You hope that it ends up being potentially a combination of Flaherty and Reese. But it's Reese Olson, I think, has the potential. If he gets hot at the right time, he can be a pitcher that can do a lot of good things for this pitching staff. So I'm pretty happy at the top. I think that it gives you a good chance to be able to compete early on in series. And that's what I think is where the Tigers probably will focus a little bit more than a bat. I think they have to love their offense. They have to love it. And they say, okay, if we can get another starting caliber arm that can eat up some innings, or a dual combo, a guy that can be a spot starter but also can take some innings in the bullpen, I think they'll focus more on players like that, and then they'll turn their attention to the bat, because I do think that the bullpen and the starters, I don't think there's going to be too many days further where you can just be confident that, okay, the Montero day or the Herder day or the bullpen day that they end up having, you don't want to do that in the postseason. I know it gets shrunk, but to your point in regards to what you're thinking, I think that you truly believe is probably the second best baseball team behind the Dodgers. And when you really hyper-focus and look at it, yeah, the Dodgers feature talent across the board, all world talent. But I do think that there's this component of a likable Tigers team that can go toe-to-toe, not out of the realm of possibility that they can compete. But you and I are in the same boat, and that's why we're so heavily looking at the external market as to who they potentially want to bring in. With the right moves, this team can put together a string of good games and get hot. That's the one thing. Toe-to-toe, top to bottom, on paper, it would be crazy to bet on the Tigers over the Dodgers. But if they both get there, I got a feeling it would go a long way. It would be a nice competitive series. Maybe the Dodgers end up winning it, but who's to say the Tigers don't make some moves? And I do think the X factor, if anybody looks at this Tigers team, probably 2 players, probably 3 players, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, and Jack Flaherty. I think if Jack Flaherty heats up, you know what Green and Torkelson can do. They can mash the baseball. And yeah, they have a little bit of an elevated strikeout count. They go through a little bit of ups and downs more than you would like. But when they get hot, my goodness, you just got to figure out a way. Like, Riley, come on, easy on the strikeouts. Like, look, come on, put the ball in play. Get on track. But, man, boomer bust. But Spencer Torkelson's right there, 20 home run guy. There's 3-4 guys now on pace for 20 home runs. It's great to see the offense. But I always look at it like the X factor is if you go Spencer Torkelson, or if you go Tariq Skubal and you follow that with a dominant Jack Flaherty, the guy that was kind of here before he got traded, man, that's going to be tough for any team to win consecutive games against the Tigers.
Yeah, and I think that's probably my biggest concern with this team right now is Jack Flaherty. What are you going to get?
Yep.
Because right now it's Jekyll and Hyde Jack. The other night he had a really good outing, was able to get into the 7th inning, looked dominant, especially after looking a little bit sketchy early. But we've had too many of those sketchy starts that gets this team in trouble. And sometimes the bats go a little bit cold. You've seen what happened in the series against the Rays, right? It was like 27 innings. I think they had 2 runs, and then they got a bunch in the bottom of or in the 10th inning in game 3. So like it's one of those things where if Jack's on his game, we'll be okay. But if Jack Flaherty is off, I feel like you're going to be up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. Now we've got 3 weeks left before the trade deadline. So I think you got enough time to kind of figure out what you're going to do with Jack Flaherty. Maybe he does kind of figure it out the next couple of weeks, and he puts it together for the stretch run here, and he is that dominant pitcher that they had last season before they traded him to the Dodgers. The hope is that you're not getting that same guy who showed up for the Dodgers in the playoffs, because that's kind of what you've gotten through the majority of this season. Would you be opposed to Jack Flaherty being part of a possible trade to get another piece here? Again, when we laid this all out at the beginning of the year, it was supposed to be Skubal, Flaherty. I was assuming Reese Olson, Casey Mize, and then whatever you were going to do for your 5th starter, whether it was Jackson Jobe or Alex Cobb or insert, I don't know, pitching chaos. The way I look at things now, it's Skubal, Mize, and then Reese Olson. Like, I don't trust Jack Flaherty to go out there. I myself am of the mindset of trading, including Jack Flaherty in a trade to get a big bat here. Get a big bat and somebody who could possibly play 3rd, if possible. And if we can go out there and make a move for another starting pitcher, cool, let's do it. We've got one of the best minor league systems in all of baseball. I'm willing to part with some of those pieces to get another arm here, to get some more relief help, but I'm not opposed to including Jack Flaherty in a trade to get another bat that can help this offense when things get tighter, when things get tougher in the playoffs. Am I out of line? Am I crazy? Do you think that they just kind of need to ride Jack Flaherty and hopefully what you've been seeing the last couple of starts is what you're going to get down the stretch? Or are you more of my mindset where we've got to have a contingency plan, we've got to make a little bit of a move, and this guy could be a piece that nets us something bigger in return, that can play possibly 3rd base, can be a strong bat in the order that's going to help generate runs, especially when other guys aren't able to get on base or score?
Yeah, look, I don't think you're going to find anybody to take Jack Flaherty's contract. I just think that he's already earned the option for next year. It's a big, hefty contract, so I think you're stuck with him. So you just
the thing with the contract is this year it's heavy. Next year it lightens up. If I remember correctly, it was a 2-year contract, and I think I don't remember the exact amount. I had to go back and look, but I thought this year was like 25 mil. And next season, I think it was somewhere right around 15 to maybe 18.
Yeah, it's still,
so it gets a little bit more affordable next season.
It's still tough. I just don't, based on the production, when you look at it. I mean, it could happen. I don't see the team. I see if the external market is going to happen, that you're going to trade some of the great prospects you built up. I think that's kind of the onus of why you build a great minor league system, is to be able to then pick from it to get a proven talent. So you look to teams like Baltimore, or teams that are fading that have some talent that you may like, the Pirates and things like that. So we'll see. We will see. But I would be surprised if a mainstay starting pitcher from the Detroit Tigers gets traded. I think that would be a little bit challenging to to sell, I think, to the fan base and to that room, to the clubhouse there, because I think Jack Flaherty is a popular guy. I do think he'll start to work his way out of it a little bit better the last couple starts as opposed to where he was getting shelled. So the last 2 or 3 starts have started to turn the tide a little bit, but where he's struggling is early in games. So you want to see him pick up the pace a little bit. He's giving up that early home run or just doesn't get into the groove right away. Serves up that meatball maybe a little bit, putting his team behind the 8 ball. But the offense, I think, has been picking him up and has been very, very competitive. So do you have, in regards to, I guess, when we look at it, because it's important, I'm of the opinion you go with the bullpen and starters, or do you think it's more important to get a bat? Because, Javi Baez has earned a tremendous amount of respect from the fans for his hitting, but that could go south. Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, it has the feel of a boom or bust offense, and you would hate to see you get to the postseason and all of a sudden you're in 2-1 games. But it's been so weird because this year, because it's kind of been flipped, where last year the team couldn't hit and the pitching was outstanding. Now the team is just absolutely mashing the hell out of the baseball, and we're trying to figure out how to support Tariq Skubal with the guys behind him, and that Jackson Jobe injury was pretty sick. So it's a different kind of team. And the bullpen is a little bit different. Some of the guys are not the same, and you do have some talent there, but there's a little bit more question mark in regards to some of the role players you have in the bullpen. So I don't know. I do think there's growing trust with Javier Baez, Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, but there's still always that nagging, hey, is the other shoe going to drop with some of the staples? So that's why I'm of the opinion you go for it all. One starter, one bullpen arm, one big bopping bat. And I think everybody will be happy and we'll have a little bit more relief going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I do feel like with Javi Baez, it's a bit of a powder keg. You're just waiting for it to go kaboom and everything to kind of fall off the wagon there.
It's crazy.
Real quick, just an update on Flaherty's contract. So according to Spot Track, $20 million this year. He had a $5 million signing bonus, and then $10 million next year. So his contract next year is very digestible. Very digestible. That's how you get to his $35 million contract for 2 years. So I feel like he could be part of a trade package, maybe, because he's a very digestible starter as far as $10 million a year. All that being said, in regards to Javi Baez, yeah, man, like this has probably been one of the most unreal turnarounds I think I've ever seen from a player. Like, this was a guy who everybody wanted shipped out of town. Just Chris Ilitch, pay the money, get the guy gone. Show us you care about your team by writing a fat check and annexing this guy to Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Bermuda Triangle, anywhere. Get him the hell out of here. And instead, what he's done is he's given you an all-star performance through half of the season. He's turned it around completely, and he's given you timely hits in games where you needed him to show up. On top of that, he's not had an ego. He's been able to play out of position. This guy is going to the All-Star game as an outfielder. This is a guy who was primarily an infielder, specifically shortstop, sometimes second base, could moonlight at third base if you needed him to. But this is a guy who has primarily played the right side or the left side of the infield for you. And you've got him playing in your outfield. Like, absolutely bonkers to me, the way he has transformed his game this season. I think it is one of the most incredible storylines that is built in and surrounding this team. Like, this team, I feel like they need to do a bit of a 30 for 30, or they need to do one of those Untold Sports on Netflix. Yeah. But give it like 2 hours, because there's so much here, because you've got to go back to the halfway point of last season to basically now for this team, because this team had, I think it was like a 0.1% chance to get into the playoffs. And then they had that miracle run, and then they were able to continue it this year. And right now they're the best team in baseball. And you've got a guy who last year was basically, they just pushed him out the door. Like, go get your surgery, go get healthy, come back when you're able to walk and everything's okay. And he went and had the hip surgery. And then he comes in this year, and I don't know if there was a light switch that got flipped. I don't know if it's Gleyber Torres making him feel more comfortable, and they were able to talk about different things, how the Yankees scouted him, because that was a story early in the year. I don't know what it is, but this is a different guy. This is the guy that you had hoped that you got when Al Avila brought him in a couple of seasons ago, and he's given you nothing like this for the majority of this contract. And all of a sudden, he's been able to string weeks together, months together. He's been able to now put this together for half of a year, and it's been awesome to watch and see. And it's been so improbable. But again, I feel like that's the powder keg, right? Like, it's been really, really good for the first half of the year. Baseball, we both know it's a game of averages. You are what you generally are. Water always seems to find its level, right? Like, you could point to Miguel Cabrera starting the season for the first 2 months, basically hitting 150 and having no power. By the end of the year, the guy was hitting 293, and he was top 5 in the AL in home runs and top 5 in RBI. It just, water always finds its level. And because somewhere in the middle there, he had 2 months of 900 baseball, you know what I'm saying, where he was just so hot at the plate and it just brought the average up. Water always seems to find its level in baseball. It is a really, really weird sport. And what we've gotten from him has been absolutely fantastic. Does the bottom fall out at the back end of this season when you need him most? That's another massive concern I have, right? We talked about Jack Flaherty and how he's Jekyll and Hyde Jack. Does that happen to Javi Baez, or is he able to keep this on the tracks and keep this train moving? I don't know. That's why I'm more of the mindset, right? If I have to have 2 of 3, right? Whether it's a starter, it's a bat, or it's a rotational bullpen arm, I am going starter, and I'm going with the bat, because you can move some guys around and you can get some guys to fill in your bullpen. You also have some guys in your minor league system. Look, I know Matt Manning hasn't been doing a great job right now in the minor league system, but this is a guy who has given you some major league time. He has been a guy who's been able to get major league bats out. They have been working on things down in Toledo. Hopefully he can figure it out by the time the playoffs come. They do come up and he can be part of your bullpen there. So you also have guys on your bullpen right now that seem as though they're rounding into form. So maybe that helps. I myself, I'm going starter and I'm going bat just in case you get Jack Flaherty going kaboom and you get the bottom falling out on Javi Baez. I would just try to get myself a little bit of insurance with both of those guys and both of those positions, I guess, to just make me feel better about where this team's tracking, where this team's going.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense when you have the opportunity to improve a baseball team. Look, Javi Baez, man, the first player to play at 3 different spots and voted into the All-Star game. That's crazy that he's an outfielder and doing some great things. So I'm impressed. It's a comeback story. I think the addition of Gleyber Torres has been underrated. I do think that what you see is a comfortable Javi Baez, somebody that's healthier, and I just think that he's found his confidence and realizing, okay, if I just get back to fundamentals and actually trust what the coaching staff is saying in regards to, hey, don't swing at really get into advantageous counts, and when you find that also too he's protected by he's getting some pitches to hit because of the fact that there's no real holes in this offense. You know, at times Sweeney struggles, at times Carpenter, boom or bust, but by and large, this offense is just pick your poison. So Javi Baez is just in a great spot, being at the lower end of the batting order, and I just think that he's taking advantage of the real strength of the team is the hitting approach, which is get into good counts, find opportunities, and I do think that he's kind of one of those guys that when there's runners on base or when you need that big hit, he kind of like focuses a little bit better. So maybe his focus is a little bit better. Maybe there was something, only speculating. Typically when guys struggle, it might mean something was going on away from the field that just was nagging, or something going on mentally that he was dealing with. And now it just seems like he's put stuff together. Whereas he was always talented, but he just always seems like he was a head case. Like he'd always be focused on the fans behind him when he was in Chicago, and then when he moved on to the Mets, that was a disaster because it felt like the Mets fans just wanted to go out there and got excited and got their rocks off by booing and jeering Javi Baez. And then in Detroit, it's a simple notion: if you perform, we cheer; if you don't, we boo. And now Javi Baez is an asset, so you embrace him. Kind of a Jared Goff-esque, sort of revival for Javi Baez. So let's embrace him. Let's cheer him on. And if he does struggle, you get to the next guy. You're going to count on Javi Baez, but what's been impressive is take that defense and run to the bank. If he's going to flick the glove like that, and when he's in the outfield or when he's playing in the infield at shortstop, you take it, man. You take it, because I do think that you got to credit Javi for being one of the reasons why this baseball team is, over 25 games above 500. It's an amazing thing to think about, that a guy was just jeered and among the most hated baseball players that ever stepped foot in Detroit. Now, after a season comeback, he seems like, okay, someone that the fans can embrace, and you realize, okay, you know what, next year of Javi, you can deal with him. We were trying to do GoFundMe's to try to raise any money to get him out of here last year. We were like, okay, can anybody chip in a quarter? Just anything you got to get Javi Baez out. And we tried everything, and he withstood it. So it's great to see. It's great to see, and the contests that you're seeing are great. I do think the revival at Comerica Park has been fun, and it's a baseball team now that you and I are just, and everybody is looking at, all right, what's the deal with Scooble? Who are they going to add? What will be the priority? And I want to see what kind of finagling can Scott Harris do to improve this baseball team. I can't wait to see if the front office of the Tigers is able to do at least a better job than what Steve Yzerman has done, because it's been crickets. You look at the offseason, and it ended up being so far and this is now the second week fully after the free agency period, and it's been a bunch of one-year deals. The big trades haven't happened. Everybody's kind of looking at, man, you didn't get the superstars. Now, Trajan Langdon of the Pistons gets more benefit of the doubt. He gets a free year to see Jaden Ivey. That injury buys him a free year to say, okay, if we just win a round, then we've made progress. So he's got the benefit of the doubt with time. Would we have liked him to gotten a better level of talent? Yeah, always. But with the Red Wings, it's so much further along. It's starting to look like year 7 may not end up in the postseason. A bunch of one-year deals for role players, and then the report that came out from Elliot Friedman just talking about that Nikolai Ehlers didn't even want to maybe even talk to the Red Wings. It makes sense, because what you hear is Steve Yzerman's just a simple negotiator. He's like, here's the offer. If you don't like it, okay, we're going to move on. And he did that with Larkin. He's done that with a lot. And plus just look at it. Just do when Trajan Langdon speaks, when Brad Holmes speaks, or Scott Harris, you kind of, when AJ Hinch speaks, you kind of want to listen to him. When Steve Yzerman speaks, it's kind of like, oh my God, I gotta hit a double on my espresso, because this guy is just like, yeah, I'm hoping that I think we can get some more points. That's kind of the idea, is I just kind of want to play better hockey and go up. I'm like, Steve, can you kind of just, pick up the pace here with some energy? Like, can you just say, hey, I needed to make some moves. I wanted to make this hockey club better. I'm pissed off. At least say, to the degree that you find what's going on unacceptable to make it believable. He actually is portraying somebody that is like, why are y'all upset that we're not in the postseason? This is year 6 of this is just like the 20% mark of the rebuild. We got a lot more to come, a lot more pain. It's like, Steve, this is sports, man. This is ADHD town. It's sport. You don't get to, I know you could say, if you pitch that to Chris Illich, hey, we need a complete teardown. We need 10 years. Your fan base doesn't support that. The heat's gotten hotter. He's lost a lot of support. I've never seen this level of disdain for Steve Yzerman, and I never thought it would get to that point. But in the end, it's business. And in the business of hockey, the Canadians have built better. Because if you just look at it from one simple team, and people, I know there's a lot of ways to build, all right? But I mean, the average simpleton can just go look and say, okay, what did the Panthers do? They made trades. Like they built with some young talent. They built and made some blockbuster trades. A lot of them. You just look at who they brought into their roster and organization. 3-4 of their best blue chip talent were not drafted. Okay, because everybody knows that. Everybody acts like these numbers are like voodoo and not real. Only 28% of draft picks ever hit the ice and play well. less than a 50% chance that any draft pick in any round is going to be successful. And each round after the second gets so much tougher. So in hockey, building through the draft is like, it would then end up making Steve Yzerman the best general manager in history if all these picks that he's stockpiled end up hitting. Well, they've not hit the ice yet. So it lends to the belief that maybe some of them are not going to be as good. So eventually you're going to have to, okay, you give him, let's just assume he's a good drafter and some of these guys are going to hit. If you completely neglect the external market and you keep bringing in these cops and JT Compers and these guys that never produce, and you get 2 free agents out of 10 that do something, you are not a good general manager. The job of a general manager is threefold. It's manage the cap so you have money to get talent. It's to draft well, but it's also to make trades for guys that end up producing and help you win. And to the degree that it's, let's just give him a B as a drafter, he's a F minus evaluator externally. And it's so bad that it makes it so tough that you're counting on an injured goalie to come in and save the day when you've drafted 3-4 goalies and none of them have been to the quality that you need to get to the next level. So it's just, bottom line from us and everybody that's been evaluating the Red Wings is it's just not good enough. It's not to the standard of competing at the level of some of these elite hockey clubs. And guys, the Panthers aren't getting worse. They're restocking their talent. They're figuring out ways to be a physical and aggressive. Teams like the Canadiens are making moves to try and improve. The East is not getting any easier. So this notion that we're just going to wait for all these guys. Well, when they eventually come up, you have 3-4 clubs that are going to be ahead of you. And what is it going to take another 5 years of getting beat down in the first round of the postseason before you make a move? The name of the game is to win the cup. And there's not a upward trajectory. It's a crooked, broken down, dilapidated rebuild plan where it's like, okay, I have the nice looking framework, but the steps aren't coming in. The kitchen is not coming in. The tariffs are causing the basement parts not to be there. You're like, okay, all we got is the foundation and a nice setup, an architecture plan. Are we ever going to actually start to build the house to make it look like a house? And then when you finally get to build, you're like, oh shoot, all the guys want to raise, and they're going to need, we're going to need another 50, 60 grand over budget to make this project happen. And you're like, dude, you're just a shitty contractor and you can't put shit together. And in the end, I just think that, Steve Yzerman's making the Red Wings irrelevant. And I know it pains me and it pains you to hear that kind of shit.
Yeah, it's frustrating when you see the Elliot Friedman report to just know that you're not even getting invited to a room that's adjacent to the top free agents that are on in the league that are on the market. And then when you get second tier free agents who don't even want to pick up your phone call, it tells you how far you have fallen in the pantheon of the NHL and just sports in general. Steve Yzerman has really undertaken something that was tough, and then he has completely drove it into the ground. It is so sad and it is so frustrating to see where this team is at currently. I was blown away. We all knew that Steve Yzerman's a bit of a tough negotiator, right? We know that a lot of the agents don't want to deal with him. But when you hear free agents don't even want to pick up the phone for this guy, and then you look at what he's able to bring in, like bringing in the corpse of James Van Riemsdyk. Hey, like that. Steve, I'm sorry, man. 2014 call. They want their player back. Like, this is a dude who, what are you doing, man? James Van Riemsdyk is 40. What are you expecting to get out of him? Or you're looking to bolster your fourth line? Is that what you're looking to do? The moves that he made are non-consequential. They're not going to give you any type of desired effect. And then to hear him at a press conference be like, I feel like we're stronger now than we were before we signed some free agents. What? And I think, I don't know if you've seen this report or not. There was a report. It was an interview that was done after Tarasenko was traded away. And basically Tarasenko came out. He was like, I wanted to get away from Detroit. I didn't want to be there. So it wasn't like Steve made this monstrous move to free up cap space. He traded a player who didn't want to be here. And like, what does that tell you? Tarasenko's a guy who's won a Stanley Cup. And he walks in the room and he's like, yeah, this ain't going to work for me. This isn't what we talked about. You need to get me the hell out of here. And Tarasenko gets moved in. Look, Tarasenko wasn't great last year. I'm not here to defend him. But what I'm telling you is when you have a guy like that who won a Stanley Cup the year prior come to your team and is just kind of checked out because of what's going on in that locker room, what's going on in that organization, it kind of tells you everything you need to know. The Red Wings aren't going to be good next year. The Red Wings aren't going to be good the year after next year. I don't know when the Red Wings are going to be good. I said it a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what the game plan is here. I don't understand
what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
That's exactly how I feel. That is exactly how I feel. I feel like Donald Trump. I don't know what's going on here at all, man. I have no clue what I just, with Scott Harris, as much as I don't necessarily like him because I believe he feels like he's the smartest guy in the room, all that being said, you kind of see what he wants to do. You understand. We're now in a position where he has a really strong minor league system. He could trade some of those prospects away, and this team can possibly get over the hump and win a World Series. You see with Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes works in really mysterious ways sometimes, and it is sometimes frustrating to us. But again, the proof is in the pudding. They win, and they win with their guys, and you get it. Brad Holmes has a certain criteria for the type of guy that needs to be in that locker room. You see it with Trajan Langdon. I don't think the Pistons have had a good offseason at all. Their prime target was a guy who possibly has a major gambling problem and is financially bankrupt, and he was going to sign a contract to possibly pay off some debts, or maybe he was going to tell those debt collectors to go F off, and that was Malik Beasley. That didn't work out real great, so they had to pivot, and they had to go get a guy like Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. Like, okay, cool, I guess. But again, Trajan Langdon has been able to take a team that was the bottom of the NBA and in a season overhaul, bring a couple of adults in, have these guys playing playoff winning basketball, and have these teams being a threat. And now we're in a conversation where it's like, hey, what do the Pistons have to do to win an NBA championship? Like, that's where the Pistons are. Now, do I feel like he's done enough? No, absolutely not. Do I wish he would have made at least another trade or made another big move or brought somebody here through free agency that was a bigger star and could help you get more baskets? Yeah, absolutely. But he's doing a good job, and he has an idea. And again, I'm willing to give him a little bit of rope to trust his process. Steve Eisman's been here 7 years, and he's brought you nothing. You've got nothing. Every year, it's the same dick tease. You get you're right there on the cusp, and then March hits, and then all of a sudden you're left holding your hand with your dick and your balls in it, and you're just kind of like, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing? I'm gonna go now slam my dick in a door because that'll feel better than whatever you're giving me right now. And I can't explain his thought process. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know where we're headed. And I don't think this team with him as general manager is going to be good because guys in the league don't want to take his call. Agents in the league don't want to deal with him. You had a guy, I think this is probably one of the more frustrating things, right? If you listen to that press conference, he talked about how he wanted to add some depth along the blue line and how he would like a guy to maybe be in his top 3 for defense. I think he said top 4, and how a right-handed shot would be good. And then you go back and you rewind a little bit to just before the NHL draft, and there was a guy over in New York playing for the Islanders that we had talked about here, and how it would be really smart if Steve would maybe make a trade, go out, bring him in, and then give him an extension for less than $9 million, which is what he ended up doing. And you weren't anywhere involved in any of that, and he was going to get traded no matter what. But Montreal was like, hey, we'll give you a couple of picks and we'll take him off your hands and we'll extend him for you. While the Red Wings had a higher draft pick and could have probably threw a prospect in because, we got to hold on to all of our prospects here. Yeah. It is stuff like that where he talks out of both sides of his face that just doesn't make any sense to me, man. And that's why I'm so frustrated. I don't know what Steve Yzerman's doing.
Exactly. That's why the stock level is pretty low. That's why it's just got to be a wait and see approach, and you just got to look at it with a very, very cautious eye that next year is going to be another grind, and you basically are wasting some of the prime years of Dylan Larkin and Alex DeBrincat. It's like, okay, it's just those two guys, and then a bunch of guys that are a bunch of maybe fill-ins, and guys that are on one-year deals that are not going to be here when some good players hopefully can get up here and get this team to the next level. So, hey, Gibson, all right, save this team. That's basically it. It's like, okay, stand on your head and get this team some points, because outside of a couple blue chippers, it's a lot of role players, and my goodness, I just don't know if you can compete in the East with what has been put together so far. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. If you disagree, if you're a Steve Yzerman guy, if you feel like we've been way too harsh, let us know. What's the reason for hope? What's your angle? What do you see as being the plan? Who are the blue chippers? Who are the second and third line centers that you think are going to put the puck in the net? Who are the wingers? Who are the defensemen? Is it addition by subtraction by having Petrie go to the Panthers, which is utterly hilarious? So we'll listen. We'll entertain your ideas. Let us know. Thank you for everybody that subscribes. Anywhere that you listen to your favorite audio content, just type in 3 words, Detroit Sports Podcast, and our content will find you, because I can't wait to break it all down. Next week will be a recording that takes place just days before training camp. So we'll start to look at what we want to see the first couple weeks of camp, and we'll start to look at, with the Tigers on the All-Star break, what that looks like. Who starts the All-Star game? Does Boone make the decision, to start Tariq Skubal, or does his own guy, who's from Atlanta, get to start? We'll see what decisions made regarding who starts the All-Star game, and what ends up taking place over the break. We'll have a recap of the Tigers' first half of the year and look at who you can trust, who you can't. Look at AJ Hinch, look at everything with the Tigers, and we'll start to preview training camp with the Detroit Lions. And pay attention, guys. The quarterback series is now airing on Netflix. It's pretty decent, but if you want to skip over the Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow parts, it's a lot of fluff and a lot of people deep in their emotions, and get to Jared Goff. It's a little bit more Lions-focused and a little bit more football-focused, and we'll give our review after Adam and I check out the entire quarterback series, a 7-run series that is very interesting regarding quarterbacks in the National Football League. All right, our time's up. I can't wait to fire it up next week on the next episode of Doc and Jock.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.